Shalom and welcome to this edition of Revealing the Truth, where we cover the headlines, the heart lines, and biblical truth. I'm your host, the Reverend Rabbi Eric Walker. And are you or someone you love keeping secrets about your relationship because you feel ashamed or feel no one will believe you? Are you feeling isolated from your family and friends? Are you permitting yourself to be treated with disrespect, disregard, or disdain? Are you minimizing or making excuses for an intimate partner's harmful behavior? Are you feeling afraid of your intimate partner? If you answered yes to any of the above, you may be in an abusive relationship. Our featured guest for this hour, at this hour every month, on this day every month, we meet with Dr. Ramona Probasco, author of Healing Well and Living Free from an Abusive Relationship, moving from victim to survivor to overcomer. She holds a doctorate in psychology and has conducted extensive research in the area of domestic violence. She's a marriage and family therapist, a certified domestic violence counselor, and a nationally certified counselor. She's been in private practice for over 20 years as an expert and sought-after speaker on domestic violence and how to authentically heal well from the trauma it causes. As a personal overcomer of domestic violence, she offers guidance and insight to others based on both her clinical experience and her own experience of moving from victim to survivor to overcomer. She's the mother of 3 incredible adult children and 2 wonderful adult children through marriage, and she now thoroughly enjoys being the wife of a husband who absolutely adores her. You can find her online at healingwellandlivingfree.com. I want to welcome our good friend, Dr. Ramona Probasco, to the program.
Good morning, Reverend Eric. It's a thrill to be back. Thank you.
Well, you have, as I shared on our last program, you become my safe person. And actually,
I can't tell you, that means so much to me. That is like one of the kindest things a person can say to me. So thank you. I'm so serious about that.
Well, you're very welcome. I don't say it lightly. I've had over the last 5.5 years since a major betrayal in my life, a very closely knit group of people that I've been willing to be just completely transparent with, that went through it with me. And along the way, I've been able to meet people like yourself who have spoken through your book and through our interaction into my life to have equipped me in such a way as I look at things a little bit differently. And because I look at it differently, I'm beginning to realize that there are probably some early signs that we should be looking for, and you cover that in your book. You know, I don't want to rehash your story, but you are the victim of a victim and an overcomer, survivor, and thriver of a physically, emotionally, and spiritually abusive relationship. So much so that even during the holiday season, you welcome this person back into your life, and that kind of sets us up for the timing of this program, which is in mid-October as we're airing this for the first time, and we'll air it again during the holidays because I think it's important that this message gets out. But the holidays tend to create an idyllic scenario for us to want to put our best face forward, and we let a lot of things slide. And unfortunately, because we don't want to be alone during the holidays, we kind of settle for behaviors that might not normally be acceptable behaviors. But as we also embark on new relationships, there are warning signs that red flags that in the endorphin state of relationship we tend to overlook. We tend to push aside and go, oh, they didn't mean that. That was just said in jest. And we tend to take a more cavalier attitude towards something that you actually cover in the book in your section on early signs of abuse. In your story, and we'll call him Ben, the fictitious name of the individual that you were married to and who was the basis of this story and your journey through abuse and your journey out of abuse, and why this has become your calling, although your vocation and your avocation is in the counseling field. You have become an expert voice in this area of domestic abuse. And
yes,
I wanted to get
there's nothing like learning from itself.
I wanted to get your insights into what we permit, why we permit it, and what we should be looking for as some red flags.
Sure. Well, I can't agree with you more, Reverend Eric, in regards to the holidays, and that people, I agree with you. You know, most people would say, well, I don't want to be alone, you know, during the holidays. Or for me, I really wanted to create that perfect Christmas, that ideal Christmas for our children. And I really did my super traits, and I know you and I have talked in a previous show what those are, but real quick for your listeners, super traits are qualities such as empathy, loyalty, tolerance, relationship investment that are in excess. We all have, unless we're a sociopath, we have empathy. We have tolerance, you know, we have those qualities. But when we have elevated levels of these traits, which I refer to as super traits, that puts us in a position where we're going to try harder to try to make a relationship work. So during the holidays, those, speaking for myself, they kicked into high gear, because I wanted to sail through those holidays where my children had good memories, and when they looked back, they, you know, it brought a smile to their face, so to speak. And so definitely the holidays can put us in a position where we're already minimizing, because to stay in a relationship that involves any form of abuse, it doesn't matter, verbal, emotional, physical, spiritual, however it expresses itself, we have to turn down the volume on our gut by minimizing, rationalizing, justifying what's happening to us. So during the holidays, that can be an even bigger issue. And I think it is. It's very important for people to be mindful of that if they are seeing signs of abuse in their relationship, which I cover the different types of abuse, but if they're seeing signs, to realize, you know what, I'm even more vulnerable to pretend what's happening is not happening as we go through the holiday season. So I'm so glad that you brought this up. I was thinking before you and I started the show, you know, gosh, I wish someone would have told me this, you know, that, hey, by the way, you know, you're probably going to look the other way even more during this time of the year, which was absolutely the case.
You know, you actually talked to me about New Year's Day. You took Ben back, even after all the abuse, because whether it was feeling sorry for yourself of being alone on New Year's, or wanting to start the new year out right and thinking that you could fix or work through whatever, it was going to be a new year and new beginnings, and you know, I guess the rose-colored glasses, the Pollyanna view of, all right, I'm strong enough to make this work, and I can get these things resolved. Being a fixer is something that is a dangerous attribute when it comes to the area of abuse, because it
comes to the area of abuse, but anytime involves another person's will, because we can't override their will, no matter what it is, abuse or fill in the blank. You know, I don't have the ability to circumvent someone else's free will. I mean, God doesn't do that with us. What makes me think I can do that with another person? It's hard enough for me to change myself. You know, it's impossible to change someone else. So, yeah, that's true. What you just said is true.
What are some of the red flags that we should be looking for early on? There's a lot of people in new relationships. There's a lot of people that are out there. You know, look, if 20s and 30s and 40s of millions of people are on eHarmony and Match.com and whatever else these services are that are actively looking for someone in their life and they're not finding it in their immediate circle. They're out there shopping for a mate, shopping for a partner. They want to put their best profile forward and gloss over a lot of things in order to try to make it work, because everybody wants to feel desirable. And in that feeling desirable stage, we may tend to overlook things that become mission critical and appear later. And it's funny because I've heard so many comments that say that well, this person is, they're exhibiting this, this, and this. And I say, well, what were they like before you married them? And they go, well, they were like that. So then why did you expect marriage to change that behavior? Where is the responsibility in this? If you knew what they were like before you married them, and they're still like that after you married them, exactly what role did they play in this, and how is it you're looking to them to becoming the responsible party when you made the conscious decision to marry them when they exhibited those behaviors? Now, that's rational, okay? And you and I deal a lot in the irrational, not the rational. But the rational... Well,
and in many cases, though, when you discover that the person that you have chosen to partner yourself with, you've said that I do, you've walked down that aisle, begins to abuse you, they don't typically start out that way. Yes, there were signs, Eric, early on in my dating years with Ben, and yes, now I see them clearly as the red flags they were. So in a sense, I agree with what you're saying. At the same time, there is that projection of Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. Knowing that this can go the other way, I want to be super clear with your viewers that men can find themselves in abusive relationships as well. So, that's very important to acknowledge that. But to go with the metaphor that Mr. Hyde does not show up until they sense that that person has emotionally attached. Once the attachment's in place, regardless if marriage is in place or not, that's when you start to see Hyde emerge. And so if you're in a relationship with someone who has these qualities to try harder, to they have that false belief that they can love this person in a wellness, that's a cocktail for disaster. Combining someone with super traits with someone who has an abusive mentality.
We talked last month about 1 in 4 women are victims of abuse, and we talked about my circumstance and identified that 1 in 7 men are victims of spousal abuse. And so it is not...
Well, actually, statistic of physical violence, it's 1 in 4 women and 1 in 7 men experience some form of severe physical violence in their lifetime. So that doesn't even include, in a sense, the lesser forms of how abuse can express itself. These are the severe cases.
Okay. What are some of the early signs, and you have this in the appendix in your book, actually where I was going to start is actually not where we were going to start with early signs of abuse, but I think I want to back up a little bit to red flags.
Okay.
Watch for the following red flags when you're considering an intimate relationship. Physical red flags. Who would be exhibiting these? A flash of fear or sweating or tight stomach, tight jaw, pounding heart, hair standing up on the neck, general feeling of discomfort. That would be your feeling that way in the presence of this person?
That's exactly right. There were many times in the 3.5 years we dated where I wanted to put the brakes on. And I actually said that to Ben, especially after he proposed to me. several times I said, I just think this is moving too fast, which is very common in these kind of relationships. Even though it was 3.5 years, we dated long distance, and so there wasn't time to really, in a sense, live life together, to really see how he and I were going to engage with each other. And it's pretty easy to, swoon someone over a long weekend with fancy dinners and nights out to the movies. It's not really the best way to get to know someone.
Right. You also talk about spiritual red flags, which I think is a very undercovered subject. Knowing or sensing this isn't the person for you or the place for you to be in. Knowing these things without any overt knowledge or concrete information. The spectrum of believers, true believers out there, biblical believers, there's Christian talk, Christian speak, right statements, right words, enough sermons and enough classes to be able to have all the right words to say that are very convincing that this person is spiritually a fit for you. They talk about their Bible studies, they talk about their Bible study group, but in reality that's not always the case, and there is that discernment that a believer is supposed to have, that they are able to discern that someone may not be the right fit for them. In ministry, we used to say that just because there's a job that needs to be filled doesn't mean that we need to put just somebody in it. I'd rather have it open than put the wrong person in the job.
That's exactly right. And what you're describing, what you're reading there in the book, is really what the person who down the road, if they stay in the relationship, will walk in the victim's shoes, so to speak. That's what you're talking about there, whether it's the physical, that she or he feels that just knots in their stomach, and the spiritual one you were talking about is that I call it in your knower. What is your knower telling you? As believers, we have the advantage of having His Spirit in us who leads us into all truth, but also our conscience, and what is your gut telling you? And to stay in these relationships, you have to dial down the volume on that gut. So, that paying attention to what is your gut telling you, what are you sensing, that is so important. And we disregard it and we ignore it and we think, well, it's, I just have the jitters or whatever excuses we make, but we begin to lie to ourselves.
It's a very fine line between emotional need and somebody being needy. And no one wants to define themselves as needy, but when we see ourselves making compromises in order to fill an emotional hole or void or even time alone, we do fall into that category of needy, whether we like it or not.
Right. Well, there's a difference, right from the beginning in the Garden of Eden, the Lord said it's not good for man to be alone. So He created us for relationships. And if we look at the Trinity itself, God subjected Himself to a relationship in that the Father, Son, and Holy Spirit, a type of relationship, a type of community. So right from the get-go, the Lord understood that people need people. We need community. We need each other. That needing each other is different than what you're describing to be needy. When I'm needy, I disregard what is healthy for myself. I don't have a healthy love for myself, and therefore I tolerate whatever I can get just so I can be with someone. That's very different. I always encourage people, you need to learn how to stand alone before you stand with someone. Adam went through a time where he stood alone before he stood with someone.
That's so very, very true. We're talking with Dr. Ramona Probasco, who joins us on the third Monday of every month at the 11 o'clock hour as a featured guest, a regular contributor here on Revealing the Truth. She's the author of Healing Well and Living Free from an Abusive Relationship, from Victim to Survivor to Overcomer. This is her personal journey, but she's made her personal journey public because she cares that the world knows that you can come out the other side of this in a better relationship, not only with God, but with your fellow man and with yourself. And you'll find a fuller life, and as she has found, a fuller life in a new marriage, with a new family, and a marriage that's based on respect, a marriage that's based on biblical principles, a marriage which is edifying and the antithesis of abusive. All of us long for that, but today we're going to talk about some ways to avoid even getting caught in that trap. And if you find yourself in some of these situations that are red flags, we want to help assist you in identifying some of those red flags. So when we return from our break, we're going to talk about, from her Appendix B, signs of a bad dating choice for those of you that are out there in the marketplace looking for a new partner, that maybe you need to take a look at some of these warning signs and heed them and not gloss over them. We'll be right back. Shalom. I'm the Reverend Rabbi Eric Walker, always, Executive Director of Igniting a Nation and host of the daily TV program Revealing the Truth, seen live every Monday through Friday from 9 a.m. to 1 p.m. Central Standard Time at www.ianbn.com, and then replayed throughout the day and night via our website. All of our segments can be seen on the Igniting a Nation YouTube channel. Since our launch in January of this year, we've expanded our global reach to over 54 countries with a social media following of over 125,000. Our commitment is to bring you the most in-depth interviews with authors, subject matter experts, and thought leaders from around the world. We have interviewed guests from Israel, Brazil, England, India, and all across North America. All of our authors are featured on the Books and Media page on our website, www.ianbn.com. There you can find a direct link to the book you want to order, and we receive a small commission directly from Amazon. There is no cost to you for this service. In addition to our daily teachings and interviews, we make available to you the archive of all of the interviews on our YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram channels. Our live program is available from our homepage, and there is never a charge to you for any of this access. We made the decision long ago that we would remain a commercial-free resource that would not be influenced by any pressure from any outside company. There are only two ways that we are able to continue to operate this ministry and provide you with the only live 4-hour daily Christian television talk show program. The first is through your support and tax-deductible contributions to Igniting a Nation. These can be made directly through the donate button on the website or sent through the mail to Igniting a Nation, 2700 Corporate Drive, Suite 120, Birmingham, Alabama, 35242. The other way we support the program is by offering you a unique opportunity to have access to over 10 years worth of teachings on a subscription basis. The teaching archives contains all of my prior sermons, Torah studies, prophecy in the news videos, and much more for the low subscription price of $5 per month. This subscription grants you unlimited access to over 800 hours of content not available elsewhere, and is updated weekly with the most current prophecy classes. In addition to 20 hours of original TV programming each weekday, we invite you to join us live every Monday, Tuesday, and Thursday evenings for our Prophecy in the News classes. The times and locations are listed on our events page on the website www.ianbn.com. Every day, you and I are faced with the challenge of where we will go to hear the truth. We are committed to bring you the only program of its kind that covers the headlines, the heartlines, and biblical truth. We cannot do this without your support. Since we launched on January 5th, 2017, we have aired over 300 individual teachings, interviews, and commentaries not available anywhere else. We are now working side by side with almost every major Christian publishing house to bring you the most in-depth feature interviews possible. Our one-hour features address every subject that affects the believer's life. We are hearing of salvations from the Middle East, Africa, and all across the United States. Lives are being changed every day, and we have only just begun. Our mission is to become your trusted resource and grant you access to the people, tools, and information you need to grow in your relationship with the Lord. You can help us by liking us on social media and through your financial support. We know you have many choices in who you support, but we are prayerfully asking you to consider helping us keep revealing the truth, true to our calling, to cover the headlines, the heartlines, and biblical truth like no other program available. Donate today and help us bring the message to the four corners of the earth. Visit www.ianbn.com and donate, buy a book, or subscribe to our teaching archives. Without you, we do not exist. Shalom and welcome back to this edition of Revealing the Truth, where we cover the headlines, the heartlines, and biblical truth. I'm your host, the Reverend Rabbi Eric Walker, and we're talking with Dr. Ramona Probasco, author of Healing Well and Living Free from an Abusive Relationship, from Victim to Survivor to Overcomer. A regular guest here on the third Wednesday of every month at the 11 o'clock Central Time hour. Dr. Ramona, welcome back to Revealing the Truth.
Thank you, Reverend Eric. It's wonderful to be back. I appreciate it.
Well, it's such an honor and a privilege for us to have your expertise and your experience, not only as a trained professional, but one that knows the personal experience of going through this abuse that you lived through. What I want to do with this segment is I want to talk about, in your book you have an Appendix P, Signs of a Bad Dating Choice. And I think that this is something that we have in our very large audience, a lot of single men, a lot of single women. Maybe they've second marriage, third marriage, could be whatever stage in their life that they're going through, where they're trying to make decisions about dating choices and the life that they are trying to orchestrate for themselves for the future. But there are some warning flags that they need to be aware of before they dive headlong into relationships, and some of them are very prone to move quickly into a committed relationship when that may not be the right route to go. So I'd kind of like to take a look at, it's on page 269 in your book, Signs of a Bad Dating Choice. Some of the things that occur in these dating relationships that we tend to overlook, but we need to be cognizant of in order to recognize that these are not necessarily, this is not an absolute, but these are things that if you have a number of them can certainly become a cocktail which is toxic.
I would agree with that. I would also say if you are only seeing one, pay attention to that. Because in healthy relationships, you're not going to see any of these signs. In a healthy relationship, this is not, when I dated my sweetie today, because as you mentioned, I got remarried, none of this was a factor. I'm looking at the list myself right now in front of me, and not one of them, not a single one. So in healthy relationships, it's not a black and white, you know. Healthy is healthy. And if it's not, even if it's one indicator, I mean, you think about physical illnesses, a person could have perhaps only one symptom, but yet when they trace that symptom, it's actually indicative of cancer or some other type of illness. And if they disregarded that one symptom, it could have been fatal had they not paid attention to it. So I think even one is important.
Let's take a look at these, because you are exactly right that any one of these could be the killer,
Right.
the
Eventually,
yeah.
yes.
So
Right.
you start with signs of a bad dating choice include someone who doesn't respect your need for time alone.
Right. That's so huge, and I didn't realize it until as I worked with my own counselors and started to get healthier myself. I remember early on in dating, I refer to my husband Tim as my sweetie, but when we started dating, I remember he would make dinner for me every Wednesday night. It just is how our work schedules work. And one particular Wednesday, I didn't have enough time to go jogging before I went to enjoy his dinner. And so I called him and I said, Tim, I said, I had a long day with clients. It's kind of how I just decompress. And I said, I didn't have a chance to jog yet. And he's like, oh, just go ahead, go run, enjoy it. So I said, okay, not thinking that, is this going to upset him? Not at all. He encouraged me to have my time alone. Then after after I finished running and went to his place for dinner, he was kind to me. He didn't punish me for the fact that I was a little bit late. He said, did you enjoy your run? And that was early on in the dating. That was all throughout the dating. And that's now today in our married life. He respects my need for some time alone and doesn't punish me or pout or whatever because I need that. So time.
That goes hand in hand with pushes to see you all the time. It's interesting that
Right.
that young people, they have flexible schedules, but older people don't have such flexible schedules. You have family, you have animals, you have obligations. In my own situation, I do live television in the morning and I speak every night. I take Wednesday and Friday nights off. Those are my down times, and Saturdays, that's my Sabbath, and I speak on Sunday. So during that time, I have things like grocery shopping and laundry and time with my dog, teaching preparation.
The logistics.
So logistically, I'm good for maybe 1 or 2 nights a week of a couple of hours in the early stages of a relationship. But large blocks of time, I find myself thinking about what I have to do. And,
Right.
Is that self-centered? Is that
It is what it is. It's your life, and it's your partner, whether it's dating or a marriage partner, that we respect each other's rhythm, so to speak. Like with my husband, he is I'm a people person, but he's a big time people person. He can be around people 24/7. Whereas with me, I have my people time, then I need to have my time where I'm just sitting in the backyard, relaxing, listening to the birds, so to speak. Literally. I need that time to rejuvenate. So we have learned each other's rhythm, and we respect that. So respect is such a foundational necessity of a healthy relationship. And if we're not seeing respect, whether it's for time or whatever it may be, early on as you're getting to know someone, that's not something that I would encourage anyone to ignore. Pay attention to that. That's very important. It definitely can be an indication of problems looming.
The list is really, it seems as I look at the list, we would be aware of these things, but we're not unless we make ourselves conscious of being aware of them. And that includes discouraging your outside interests, family, and friends. I think I told you that I knew 3 days into my marriage that I had married the wrong person. And because I was so biblically, I was a new believer, and there wasn't adultery, and there wasn't anything that caused that I could base a foundation other than I just knew 3 days into it, it was a mistake.
Right.
The first sign to me that it was a mistake was that I had an adopted daughter who lived with me half the time. And there was resentment towards my time with my daughter. And it was expressed early on in the relationship. And I should have seen that this was going to become an issue. And ultimately, this I had sole custody for a period of years, then joint custody, 50-50, and then she was of an age where she could make a decision as to where she wanted to live full time. And when she made that decision, she immediately made the decision to go to live elsewhere. And I was surprised by that because we were so close. And I realized it's because that there was this constant tug of war going on in the marriage for attention that I was devoting to my daughter that seemed to have been competitive and was seen as taking away from attention that could have been devoted to my spouse. And it was expressed early on and became quite a contentious point in the marriage, to where my daughter picked up on it long before I ever realized that it was an issue. Now that she's an adult, she's expressed it to me and say, well, how come you couldn't see that? How come you didn't know that? I didn't even know the word narcissist until my daughter, at 25 years old, said to me, well, didn't you know she was a narcissist? And I was going, I don't even know what a narcissist is. My daughter introduced me to the term. There are people in our lives that are aware, and I guess that brings us to the question of, if you have people who you are close to and they are aware of things that you're not aware of, should we expect them to speak into our lives? Should we expect them to point out to us certain things? Should they make us aware of things in this accountability amongst believers? And I'm talking about specifically believers, not gossipers or slanderers, but those people that we feel we're close to, that speak into our lives, that are our safe people, and they point something out to us. Should they be pointing this out to us?
Well, for myself, I believe it is part of my responsibility. If I'm concerned, if I saw someone, doing something that caused them physical harm, I would, if I saw someone's going to step out in front of a car, let's just use an exaggerated example, would I just stand back and just watch them get hit? But it's all in the way that we say it. In my own story, my best friend, Chelsea's what we call her in the book, Chelsea was concerned about a dating relationship I got into after my divorce. And she just didn't feel like it was a good situation for me to be in. And I remembered I defended that person and said, well, you don't know them. You don't know them like I do. And I didn't receive her counsel. And I pushed against it. And what I tell people now is allow people to speak into your life. If that person is someone you know cares about you, genuinely loves you, even if their delivery is a little, as you perhaps, think about, what is their heart for me? And I know with Chelsea, we've been best friends almost 35 years now. She loves me dearly and has my best interest in mind. And her delivery was very sweet, and I still didn't heed it. So listen to your community. And if you're on the other end and you've got a concern, then share with that person, but just know you're not responsible for how they respond. If they decide to listen, wonderful. And if they don't, just know you did what you could.
The list you have of signs of bad dating choices certainly brings out control as being one of the underlying common themes. Ask you to do things you're uncomfortable doing, wants to control your hair, dress, behavior, friend's job, wants you to quit or change jobs. those are control factors in them trying to exert some control into your life, as opposed to that blended existence that you and I have talked about, is what you and your current husband have, is a blending and a way to make it work, as opposed to one trying to control the other. Do we?
That's biggie. That's huge. What you're identifying there. You know, when we were married, in my prior marriage, I remember Ben would always want me to dye my hair black. He said, you know, dye your hair black and dress like a punk rocker. That was one of the things he would say to me. And I said, God did not give me that. And I don't have anything against people who dye their hair black, but God did not give me black hair, and I don't want to dress like a punk rocker. That's not who I am. God bless the people that that's how they want to dress, but that's not me. You know, so, but I didn't realize how significant it was. I laughed it off like that's kind of silly. But now when I look back, I think, you know, to try to change my hair color, the way I dressed, the car I drove, these were all different ways that control was exhibiting itself, which is not a healthy relationship. We don't do that in a healthy relationship. There's freedom to be who you are.
You know, it's interesting that you bring up the change in a person's appearance. If there is an attraction as to how they look now, why would there be more of an attraction by changing them? It seems kind of counterintuitive, kind of illogical that I would want to change you. You know, I have a full beard and have for over 40 years. It started out the first time I could grow a beard, which was in the 60s. So it's really going on 50 years. And I kept it. And I kept it in corporate America. And I kept it throughout and broke the facial hair barrier at AT&T. And I broke the facial hair barrier at Hewlett-Packard. And now, rabbinically, it's how part of my attire and my appearance is to reach the unsaved Jewish world by taking the appearance factor out of the equation. Is he really a rabbi? Well, he dresses in black and he has a beard. I make this mental picture that, well, he looks like a rabbi. So if he looks like a rabbi, then okay, I can accept him as a rabbi. Now, that's a psychological connection that I've had to come to understand. So when I'm in Israel, I still wear black and I still have the white beard, and I'm accepted. I can walk into a group of 8 or 9 Hasidic rabbis and have them make space for me to join them because of how I look. And I'm called to the Jew first. I'm a Romans 1:16 Jewish man, called like Paul to preach the gospel to the lost sheep of the house of Israel, to the Jew first. Therefore, I want to not be a stumbling block in my ministry, so I do wear a black jacket and a black T-shirt, and I wear jeans and cowboy boots. You know, it's kind of the upper half of me is the rabbi, the bottom half of me is still the hippie, and
that's good stuff.
Yeah, and fortunately you can't see below the set, so you don't know that I'm wearing jeans and cowboy boots. But if somebody were to come along and say, well, you need to shave the beard, I would. It's not that I'm attached to the beard because of I might have a baby face. I shaved my beard once when my daughter was 6, and she said, "Daddy, put it back." You know, I'm just not known. This is it's like a signature. It's like change your signature. This is who I am. This is how I look. But I can see where that would be. For me, it would be a red flag. It would be.
That's exactly right.
You know, change your appearance. I do wear black every day because even at Walmart, I will hear my name called, Rabbi. In Jerusalem, I hear my name called, Rabbi. Now, in Jerusalem, there's 150 rabbis, okay? But I happen to turn around and I answer, Okay?
Mm-hmm.
The other 149 rabbis don't turn around and answer, but I do,
Mm-hmm.
all right? Because that's what I'm called on the streets of every city and every store and every place. And so it's kind of interesting from an identity standpoint. That would be taking a piece of my identity from me. Not that I'm so enamored
Right.
with facial hair. It's just that
Right.
it's a signature. Now, there was a time when it was bright red. And it was really,
Right.
I was the Napoleon Dynamite of the rabbinate. I mean, I was the, I had this curly red hair and this curly red beard and looked like an Archie comic. But knew that over time it would change. But I can see that somebody trying to change your appearance or at the holiday time buying you outfits that are different than the clothes you wear could be a very subtle way of trying to maneuver or manipulate you. And
Right.
that could be a warning sign that I don't think that I would have ever paid attention to.
Right. It definitely can be. At the same time, I think there are situations like in my marriage to my sweetie now, where he loves for me to go shopping, and he'll say, "Honey, which one looks best on me?" See, that's different because he's inviting me to speak into that. It would be much different if I said, wear this, this, and this, and if he opposed it, then I was upset with him. There's a huge difference between getting someone's input or giving input because someone's asked, as opposed to saying this is what you need to do. Because this is what you need to do, or I will be upset at you is control.
Absolutely.
It's an express control.
I hate it, Ramona, that we are out of time.
Are we really?
Yeah,
Oh my gosh, we are, aren't we?
This is the fastest hour, and I just so enjoy talking to you. We're talking with Dr. Ramona Probasco, healing well and living free from an abusive relationship, from victim to survivor to overcomer. So many gold nuggets in here, not just for the abuse victim, but how to avoid some of the traps, how not to even get yourself in that place. But if you find yourself in that place where you're in an abusive relationship and you need to move past that abusive relationship, you're either out of it or you're still in it, you need to know how to get out of it. There are tools in here to help you with that process. There's tools in here for healing. There's tools for you to become this precious person that's on the other end of the camera who's telling a story of victory. Victory through Christ, victory through the Word of God, victory through hanging on to the hem of His garment that brought her complete healing. Not only did it bring her healing, but it brought her a new life. And it gave her the complete antithesis of the life that she had, where she is fulfilled and so confident now in her boldness in being able to bring abusive relationships to the surface and counsel and lead and guide and direct. And this resource is available to you. Visit our Books and Media page and get a copy for yourself. You may find that you didn't even know that some of the things that you've been going on in your life have been abusive, and you can put a stop to them before they become dangerous. Dr. Ramona Probasco, as always, what a pleasure to see you. I look forward to seeing you next month on the third Wednesday of November, right here on the Igniting Nation Broadcasting Network. God bless you, my friend.
God bless you too, Reverend Eric.
Thank you so much. We're going to take a short break, and when we come back, we'll bring you the next edition of Revealing the Truth.